Welcome back to Open BXRx. Councilmember Fernando Cabrera recently announced that the Kingsbridge Armory is being used as an emergency food distribution center with the Get Food NYC program providing delivered food boxes to those in need. However, community groups have created a petition proposing that the 180,000 square foot space be used for much more. Joining us now to discuss the Open People's Armory petition for COVID-19 relief is member of the North Bronx Collective, Jay Espinosa. Thank you for joining us, Jay.
Thank you for having me.
So first, I just wanted to start about just learning about the North Bronx Collective and what you guys do. Can you just give us an opening about that?
Sure, the North Bronx Collective is a group of residents living in the North Bronx area, and we are comprised of workers, teachers, professors, organizers, and parents. And we basically are pushing for things like universal healthcare, universal food, universal housing. We support the campaign to cancel the rents for tenants in New York State. And we also believe in extending the eviction moratorium that is currently in place. We also believe in freeing all those who are detained in the jails and in also the immigration detention centers.
And now the North Bronx Collective has created this petition to open up Kingsbridge Armory for more services for the Bronx. Can we talk about why it's important that the Bronx get action now regarding COVID relief?
So right now, the Bronx is considered the least healthiest county in New York State. It's also considered one of the poorest, if not the poorest, counties in the country. A lot of people believe, myself included, when the country has a cold, the Bronx has the flu. And in this case, with the pandemic, when the country has COVID-19, the people of the Bronx die. So as of yesterday night, the New York City Department of Health put out data showing that the highest death rate in the city right now for COVID-19 is 6% in the Bronx. The Bronx has the highest COVID-19 death rate in the city. That is almost twice as high as Manhattan's death rate. And there's also a headline that was put out recently by thecity.com that said that Bronx residents are twice as likely to die from COVID-19 in New York City. The Bronx has the highest hospitalization rate right now of COVID-19, which is 32%. And the Center for Disease Control also names several diseases that puts people more at risk of getting COVID-19. So I'll just name them throughout this, the information that I will share with you. The Bronx is ground zero for asthma in the country. Asthma is one of those diseases that puts people more at risk of COVID-19. The Bronx is also ground zero for diabetes in the state of New York. The Bronx actually has the highest percentage of people with diabetes in the state at 16%. The Bronx is the ground zero for malnutrition in the country. Has the highest rate of malnutrition in the country. And it is also a place where there are high rates of HIV, which also puts people more at risk of COVID-19. So the Bronx is basically a place that is unfortunately notorious for tremendous health inequalities that the current system we have perpetuates.
Right. And now, what are the petition demands when it comes to opening Kingsbridge Armory as a good location for this relief?
So the demands basically are five demands. We want a hospital with universal health care provided at the Armory. We want housing for the homeless, prioritizing disabled people, elderly folks, trans folks, incarcerated and detained people, survivors of domestic violence, undocumented people, mentally ill people, and also people who have asthma and are living in apartments with mold and pests. We want housing for those people. We want a mental health center also with universal health care. The grief that people are facing right now is unprecedented, and we need a safe haven for those who have mental illnesses and also for those who may be diagnosed after all this with new mental illnesses. We want a food garden While we understand that the Armory was recently opened as a temporary food distribution site, we demand that we have a long-term sustainability plan for this area, and particularly at the Armory. So we believe a food garden will help us on that path. And we also demand that the state hire every folks that have been laid off due to the pandemic. We want those jobs to be paid living wages with universal health care and also personal protective equipment to be provided to those who have been unemployed uh, during this pandemic. The Kingsbridge Armory is a ideal location for this because of the size. The size of it is basically the size of 3 football fields. It is actually one of the largest armories in the world. So we believe that there's tremendous space and plenty of space in order to build these resources. It's been empty. The armory has been empty for 24 years since 1996, and that is also a good reason for us to move in there with these resources. Um, the zip code where the Kingsbridge Armory is located, which is a zip code 10468, currently has the highest percentage or one of the highest percentages of patients with COVID-19 in the city, and also has one of the highest number of patients with COVID-19 in the city. Um, so these are the reasons why we believe the Armory should be utilized now and for the foreseeable future for the people of this community and for the Bronx and for New York in general.
Right. Something I noticed from the demands in the petition is that a lot of what's being called for should be community controlled. What is the importance that all of this is community controlled on behalf of North Bronx Collective?
So community control is a concept that I believe folks are not very familiar with. So I'll just kind of explain it as basically as I can. So community control is basically a democratic process in which the community directly manages resources in their community, not in the sense of having a private company come in and manage those resources, but having the community directly be involved in that. And we have elected officials that are elected by the people and do manage resources, but we want to decentralize that process, and we believe in decentralizing it. So we believe that community control is basically the community directly managing resources because we know how to keep us safe. We are experts of our community. We don't need experts to come into our community and tell us what we need. So we know best what we need. And so how do we manifest the future in a community in which we can take care of ourselves? Um, the Kingsbridge Armory is scheduled to be redeveloped into the world's largest ice skating center. Uh, and that was an effort won by the community a couple years ago in 2013. However, the company that will come in to manage this facility is a for-profit business, the Kingsbridge National Ice Center, and so their main bottom line is profit. At the same time that they are going to be managing this armory, there is going to be a community benefits agreement that will provide some of the similar resources that we mentioned in that project, but we don't believe it's enough. We, as a collective, believe that this is a government crisis. The pandemic is a government crisis. It is not a COVID-19 crisis. The government has the resources to provide enough supplies, enough food, enough housing, enough healthcare, and all of the things that we need to survive in this pandemic and after the pandemic. The government has those resources, so we believe it's a matter of will. It's an issue of will and not an issue of ability. And so we believe this is a government crisis. And recently, Governor Cuomo put out a new budget which cuts public services and empowers Wall Street. Uh, the recent budget he passed slashes Medicaid at $400 million to hospitals. It cuts Medicaid by $2.5 billion a year, and that includes $400 million cuts to hospitals. These are the same hospitals that we're depending on to save our lives from COVID-19. And at the same time that Cuomo is on TV proposing these new measures to maintain the crisis of COVID-19, he's cutting our healthcare system. He's cutting the benefits that help us survive. So what does that do to people that are left with nothing? We believe that this tactic is a tactic that empowers Wall Street. We believe that Governor Cuomo, by not acting in the interest of poor and working class people, is a tool of Wall Street. And so he needs to make a decision very quickly whether or not he cares about our community. Because if not, then that means the community needs to come in and take care of ourselves. Um, and so that's what we're pushing. We're pushing a program that is people before profits, and we believe the Armory should be 100% publicly funded. We believe it should be 100% community controlled. And how that manifests practically is we envision something like a advisory board or some kind of oversight committee with members of different collectives of community organizations and institutions in the community that can give voice to this Armory project. In the redevelopment plans put forward by the community with the Kingsbridge National Ice Center, there is already a community space allotted to the community, and there is already an advisory board. But that space is only 1/3 of the Armory, and so we want to expand that to be 100%. We want that community space to be 100% of the Armory, not 1/3. And so that's how we believe community control can be manifested in the Armory.
Got it. Jay, where and how can people see and join this petition that you are all putting out?
Everybody can go to our Facebook page. We have a Facebook page. If everybody just types in North Bronx Collective, they'll find us right away. You can also type in facebook.com/North Bronx Collective, and they should be able to find our petition on there on the Facebook page.
Thank you so much for your time, Jay Espinosa, and thank you for joining us and sharing more about this petition to open the People's Armory. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Open BXRx. We'll be right back.